I am here to tell you today that I was wrong. Something that is very hard for a woman with super traits to admit. I have helped thousands of high functioning women rebuild their desire, their relational clarity, have the best sex of their lives, even in the most complex emotional environments. And today I want to tell you a hidden truth underneath every high achieving woman whose life on the outside doesn't match how she's feeling on the inside. Every shut down, overwhelmed, anxious, but making it all look easy, right? We're posting pictures of the vacation. Every overfunctioning woman that feels alone, resentful, lacks clarity. When I wrote The Pink Canary in 2019, I knew that women had a pleasure problem. What I didn't know, what I missed, was why high achieving, brilliant, successful women were losing their pleasure in the first place. I was right about the problem, and I was missing a piece of the system that created it. And that system is designed to extract from women with super traits like us. You're here, you've done a lot of healing, you've regulated, you know what a window of tolerance is, you have this great self awareness, you know your attachment styles, your Myers Briggs. Oftentimes, most of my clients, my private clients, sit on connection calls with me and they tell me exactly what's wrong, exactly the patterns they keep repeating in their lives, in their relationships, every time they start dating. So you've learned how to set boundaries. You've improved your communication. You started to put yourself on the map. And yet, when things get hard, life is lifing, someone is disappointed in you, you still end up doing the emotional labor. You still collapse or you overfunction to fix the situation. Your relationships, your reality hasn't shifted as much as you have with all the learning you've done, all the work you've done. Your sex life feels flatter than it should. Your aliveness, your presence, your turn on, it's inconsistent. And it's dependent on other people, external factors. And does that sound familiar from our good girl conditioning? That our attention is focused out on everyone else first. So our clarity, our knowledge, our understanding from all this work we've done has not fully translated into real world change. So this episode is about the missing link between the woman you become, the woman you're becoming, and the life that still hasn't rearranged itself, that still hasn't caught up around you. I'm Dr. Jordan Wiggins, naturopathic doctor, author, coercive control clinician, and dominatrix trained pleasure strategist. I help high achieving women with super traits go from high achievers to receivers, to teach them the real reason why overfunctioning in relational systems that were never designed to meet women like us is a losing battle, because you've been the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the emotional anchor, the one that fixes, the one that plans. And those traits have made you exceptional. And those are the very traits that will keep you from having the relationships and life that you desire. Here we name the invisible dynamics that drained you without you even realizing it. You don't need better communication, more couples therapy. You don't have to work harder at love or getting people to see who you are or meet your needs. You need an understanding of the super traits that cause you to overfunction in relationships. You need a relationship blueprint that takes you from high achiever to receiver. And you need the tools to make this actionable, to take it from knowledge and turn it into reality. So you can stop overfunctioning and finally experience love, support, connection, turn on, just because you are, not because you've earned it. So, Superwomen, do you know your super traits? If not, pause this episode, head to the show notes, and take my free super trait quiz. It will change the way you look at and understand every relationship you've ever been in. Your super traits make you exceptional, and they disconnect you from pleasure, connection, the things that we want most in life. So pleasure, this state of being, and this is my older work, requires presence, the ability to receive, the ability to be present with sensation. Oftentimes it requires, for my clients anyways, slowness, truth, sometimes a softening. And super traits, on the other hand, require scanning, fixing, anticipating, managing, performing. And that is the high achiever's default. And we've spent decades rewarded for those exact behaviors that shut pleasure down. And this is why therapy was enough for understanding. And we all need that. This is why the nervous system work and the EMDR, which we also need, wasn't enough to actually shift the relationship system. That's why trying to want sex, trying to change your mindset, trying to meditate, communication tools were not enough. Because the root issue is not libido, hormones, desire mismatch, wanting too much, being too much. The real issue is that super traits pull you out of the conditions required for pleasure and connection to exist at all. So if you've been on this journey with me since my earlier work, you know pleasure is our life force, where we get our energy. And I'm not just talking about sexual pleasure. I'm talking about that feeling when you're actually tasting your coffee instead of like drinking it cold between emails and meetings. When you let yourself stare at a sunset for 5 minutes, or you've watched the beauty of the leaves changing. You laugh so hard with a friend, you might pee a little. And yes, pelvic floor dysfunction. If you pee when you laugh, see a pelvic floor physio. But you know what I'm saying. When you look at your pet or you're watching your kids sleep, that's pleasure. That feeling, living life from pleasure, with the pleasure centers in your brain, in your heart, in your pussy turned on, that changes the way people interact with you. It stops people on the street to give to you, to help you. That joy, that aliveness, that fulfillment, right? When we felt freer, fun. We would laugh for no reason, dance in the kitchen. Somewhere along the line, our super traits disconnect us from that. Super traits that I'm talking about: empathy, sensing others, putting others' feelings above your own; loyalty, staying too long in situations that do not serve us. I see my clients do this in relationships. I see my clients do this with their careers. Responsibility, carrying everything, even things that aren't yours. Tolerance, swallowing discomfort in the hopes that it will be better or change in the future. That's the best part about the women that I work with, is we can tolerate the uncomfortability. And in fact, when things get really good, when we do start to receive, that's the part that actually needs work. Because if it feels too easy, it's like a short circuit for our brain. Another super trait is forgiveness, where we're giving endless chances, or we're saying like, oh, it's his childhood trauma. He didn't mean to break that, or break the same promise to me that he said he would make for the 8th time. And hard work, believing that if we just tried a little harder, did it a different way, learned a different skill, then it would finally click. That what stands between us and the life we want is us not working hard enough, something that we're not doing. And this is all false. It's all a setup. Super traits help you survive and succeed in environments when you are not being loved the way that you deserve to be loved. And we usually develop these from childhood. And pleasure is how we go from high achiever to receiver. It's how we heal and shift these super traits. So I want to talk to you about the 5 ways that super traits disconnect you from pleasure. So number 1, super traits pull you into your head. Your brain is the command center. This is where we live. What needs to get done? Is everyone okay? What do I need to adjust? How do I avoid the conflict here? How do I make everyone feel comfortable? Okay, we're hypervigilant. We're scanning. We're in a hypervigilant scanning state, not a receptive, pleasurable, receiving one. Okay, and this is when we are in our heads and we're in our logic brains. Our pleasure centers turned off. We can't feel our body. We can't feel what our heart desires. We can't feel what our pussy desires. Some examples. You're being touched, but instead of feeling it, you're thinking about groceries, laundry. Maybe you're performing, pretending to like intimacy or connection a little more than you're actually feeling it. Because you've begged for the date night, asked for the date night, and then when you finally go on the date night, you're too exhausted to enjoy yourself, but you fake it, you perform, right? We're up here, we're in our heads. And we don't have the skills to shift the reality into a night that ends in connection instead of a night that ends in fighting. We're in our heads wondering how the person is going to react if we say no, how they react if we ask them for something, or we're thinking about the email we forgot to send. So when you have super traits and they are running the show, you only have pleasure when the conditions are right. And that is the part that I missed in my earlier work. I used to think we could superwoman it. We could learn the skills of presence, of receiving, of sensation, of softening, which do work. But then the minute shit hits the fan, we're back. Our super traits have taken over. We're pulled into our head into those same patterns. Number 2, super traits turn you into the emotional container, or should I say the emotional dumpster, where you are holding everyone else's feelings and unprocessed trauma, their irritability, their withdrawal, their stress, their disappointment, your kids' emotions, your staff's emotions, your friends' emotions, the tone of the household, the tone of the boardroom, and you're regulating everyone else first, and no one is doing it for you in return. Pleasure cannot flow into a body that's busy managing the emotional climate for everyone else. Sometimes I have to check myself and my clients because we are managing the emotional climate for people that we are paying to do a job. So an example of you being the emotional container or the emotional dumpster. You don't really feel like sex, or you don't really feel like going to a party, but you sense what the other person wants. Okay, maybe you sense that they're impatient or people will be upset that you don't go, and you instantly shift into accommodating instead of staying centered around your needs and coming up with something different. You might want slow sex and connection, and you sense that impatience. So you instantly shift into, let's get this over with, or you shut down. And this repertoire, this whole other world that you can create exists, but you're unable to access it because of your super traits. Number 3, Super traits reward performance instead of presence. So life has taught us to be masculine, to be the fixer, to be the strong one, to be the problem solver, the one who holds it all together, the one that people calls when shit hits the fan. I think I've said shit hits the fan a lot. It's just that kind of a day. You're taught to be fine, right? Your messy feelings or being too much makes you unlovable. When actually the secret is that your feelings, your empathy, your super traits, that's your superpower when used correctly. So by performing, by doing, by being stuck in that masculine gear, this kills pleasure because pleasure requires authenticity. Pleasure requires presence, not performance. Everyone's interacting with the mask we put up, with the walls that we put up, and they're not actually able to touch us, touch our desires, touch our hearts, touch our pussies. That, and I'm like metaphorical, right? And actual. But that's the desire. That's what feels so lonely. That's what feels so inauthentic because we're busy doing, we're busy hiding who we really are, only sharing the parts of us that we think will be accepted and not rejected. And we wonder why we feel alone. We wonder why we go through the motions, kissing, sex, affection, life, but we're not in it. Our body is not participating. When that's where the wisdom lies, that's where the answer lies. But if we go back to number one, that's we're stuck in our heads. We're not listening to our intuition. We're not grounding and creating possibilities that didn't exist before. Or we've learned to do it in such a way that is through self-abandonment. And we feel lonely, resentful, we lack clarity, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you're a high achieving woman who's already done the healing work, but your life, your relationships, dating hasn't responded to the woman you've become, you're not stuck. You're ready for influence. You want to be felt. You want to be loved without trying for who you are, not how much you overgive. You want to use your turn on, your pleasure everywhere, in conflict, in intimacy, in leadership, in love, so you can influence without manipulation. And you can shift people by your presence, not your effort, not how much you overgive. And this is why, as a naturopathic doctor, coercive control clinician, author, dominatrix trained pleasure strategist, this is why I created the Pleasure Centered Society, where pleasure leads, not your super traits. It's 6 months of precise, embodied training for the woman who's healed and now wants her world and relationships to respond. Head to the show notes to apply now. The fourth reason your super traits impact your pleasure is because they train you to prioritize harmony over your lived truth. You avoid conflict because conflict means danger, it means rupture, it means work, it means abandonment. So you trade your truth for what appears to be peace or harmony, but it's actually not. And that is a guaranteed way. Suppressed truth always kills desire and connection, and it leads to resentment. So an example is you stay silent when he's dismissed your feelings for the 10th time. You freeze instead of saying, I don't like that, I don't agree with that, that hurt. You don't speak up. Okay, so when our pleasure disappears with our voice in those moments, and we've been trained to make everyone else comfortable. And we need the training to keep ourselves in the equation. And number 5 is super traits make receiving uncomfortable. we were wired to give. We were rewarded for overgiving, for how hard we worked, for how thin we stretched ourselves, for not having needs. We feel useful when we give. And that's how we've been taught to love, by giving. And we give and give and give in hopes that we get something back. But that's a losing proposition. It's why we need a new framework, which I teach in the Pleasure Centered Society. And when you sign up now, you are getting the Pleasure Centered Method Framework training for free. And you are getting a super trait audit and blueprint for free. Because it is the holidays and I am in the spirit of giving. So you do not want to miss these bonuses. So when we have super traits and when we know, okay, I need to stop over giving, and we know it in our brains, but we aren't able to take action in the moment that counts because receiving feels awkward. It feels unsafe. It feels undeserved because why should anything good happen to us if we haven't killed ourselves to get it? Receiving feels foreign. Receiving feels vulnerable. But yet, the relationships, the connection, the life that you desire, pleasure is impossible without receiving. For example, when we are offered help, partner, friend, coworker, and we instantly say, nope, got it, without even thinking, it's just our reaction. Or I have clients that they've made massive shifts in their relationships. They're really dialing back the overgiving, and then their partner shifts. Their partner starts going to therapy. Their partner starts repairing more. Their partner realizes that they need to put in some effort in the emotional connection department if they want sex. And these are all amazing, positive things. And then my client comes to me and she's full. Her little cup, her receiving capacity that's a cup, when really it should be this infinite, universal well, our capacity to receive and create. But our super traits have trained us for it to be a cup. She doesn't know what to do. So our work is in practical skills to increase our receiving capacity. So that feels natural and normal because pleasure can never land if we're always filling, we're always overflowing. We need to be a woman who is given to, a woman who it feels good to give to. And if they give a little bit and we short circuit because our receiving capacity is so low, that's a problem. So when our super traits have taken over and we have a pleasure suppressed life, we're feeling flat, numb, disconnected. Probably like starting to feel that connection in some areas, but it's fleeting. We haven't linked it all up. We're only experiencing pleasure when the conditions are perfect. We freeze, we fawn, we overfunction under stress. So that's like the minute something goes on, we are back. Our capes are on. Super traits have taken over. We have erased ourselves. Pleasure centers are off. And you're craving more. Things are better than they have been, but you don't know what you want. You're attracting relationships where you carry the emotional load. You're trying to fix connection. You're trying to fix the relationship. You're trying to fix yourself instead of influencing it. You're doing the work internally. You have the knowledge, but things not changing externally. So you've grown on the inside, but your world, your relationships have not adjusted to meet you yet. And when our pleasure centers are turned on, pleasure's information, pleasure's data. It tells you what's safe, what's true, when you're abandoning yourself, what direction you want your life, your day to go, what your body wants, when a boundary is needed, when someone's not meeting you and how they could. But super traits drown out that internal guidance system. So you don't hear your yes. You don't hear your no. You don't hear the stop, the more. Pleasure becomes muted, not because we don't have this ability. We don't have this great ability to connect and have amazing relationships, but because we were trained to override those signals at a very young age. So the insight, the knowledge, the things that we're chasing, it doesn't create influence. It doesn't create connection. It doesn't create the soul shaking sex. Knowledge of your attachment style doesn't change the fractures that happen in the moment when you're not met. But presence does, pleasure does, influence in the moments that you need it to make sure that you don't self abandon, that you don't overfunction. You don't need more tools, more communication scripts, or another empowerment retreat or vacation from your life to just come back and repeat the same patterns. You need the skill to be felt in conflict, in intimacy, in negotiation, in leadership, without superwomaning it, without pushing, without performing, without over explaining. Super traits taking over. We can build the most fulfilling life. We can delegate. We can take the vacations. We meditate and go to the yoga classes. And I've worked with thousands of brilliant women, and I see the same pattern. They've healed, they've put the boundaries in place, but the people, relationships, life around them is still responding to the older version of them. The minute there is stress, the same patterns return. You still overgive. The patterns might be less frequent, they might be less severe, but they are still there. The pleasure-centered society is where this finally changes. It is a 6-month mini mastermind and training where you learn how to be loved for who you are, not what you give, to be felt without trying. You're tired of pushing, explaining, proving you've changed. To be able to apply your pleasure, your turn on, your erotic power as a leadership strategy, not just in workshops, not just on calls, but in real life. This is the piece that my work was missing. Be able to apply it in conflict, in negotiations, in intimacy, in leadership, in dating, in sex. You're going to learn how to influence without manipulating. You want nuance, you want turn on, you want presence. You don't want games, you don't want the same fucking patterns. You want to be the woman who changes others by your presence, not by performance, not by effort, by presence, by pleasure. Nothing about you is burnt out, dormant, or reactive anymore. We learn to direct our super traits. And if you are ready for the era where your presence and pleasure does the talking and your world rearranges around you to meet you, head to the show notes, apply for the Pleasure Centered Society, or just sign up if you know it's for you. If you're questioning it, we can get on a call and determine that this is the right fit. And if you don't do this work, nothing falls apart. It stays exactly the same, and that's the problem. You keep being the person everyone relies on, but no one responds to, no one's drawn to. You keep doing the emotional labor while telling yourself that you're the strong one, you can tolerate it. You keep regulating the room while no one regulates with you. Relationships will keep defaulting to the older versions, the older patterns, the one who carried it all, softens the blow, makes life easier for everyone else. Pleasure, your power, your presence, it stays theoretical. something that you access in workshops, but not in real life. And you'll continue performing change, repeating the same patterns instead of living it. Your body will keep whispering the message, I can't live like this. There's got to be a better way. But influence doesn't happen on its own. It has to be practiced. It has to be embodied. It has to be directed. We need to be able to access our pleasure in moments that are designed to take it away. The world is only going to update its response to you when you do. You cannot fail at this because the work that we do together in the pleasure-centered society is skill-based, not wish-based, not theory-based. You're not gambling on a man changing or hoping that if you just try hard enough, your relationship's going to magically improve or you're magically going to be ready to leave the extractive job. You're not relying on perfect conditions. You're learning repeatable, usable, embodied skills that work in any relevant environment. Influence instead of over-explaining, calibration instead of collapse, boundaries that hold without control, presence that changes a dynamic in the moment. And these are not skills that you can unlearn. Once they're in your body, they stay in your body. You've already done the hard part. You've healed, you've rebuilt, you've broken patterns that women spend decades trying to escape. This is the phase where your world finally updates to meet the woman you've already become. There is no risk in taking this step. The only risk is what happens to you, your health, your relationships, if you stay exactly the same in a life that no longer fits you. So join me in a community of amazing superwomen in the Super Trait Society.